So this video is a really exciting one for me, probably not for you, but for me. My daughter is turning 6 and she wanted a Princess Peach theme for her birthday. I decided to make her a Be Smart jumper by Ellie and Mac, but I wanted to sub and sew it, but I wanted to make it Princess Peach theme. So I'm going to sub and sew it together. So this video is more of like a craft with me, and I'm gonna show you how I do it all from subbing to sewing it piece by piece. So if you want to see how it turns out, just keep watching. I started off by taking my fabric and finding where the stretch was. I then took a lint roller to lint roll it to get all that lint off, because we know with sublimation, lint turns blue and we don't want that. I then took my design and placed it on my fabric and taped it down. For my skirt pieces, I'm missing a little part in the bottom. I don't know how that happened, but it don't matter because that's going to be my hem. You're not going to notice. I then took my rotary cutter and I cut it out. The pattern calls for a full circle skirt, but that was going to be too hard with a small printer and, subbing that and putting that together. So I just did 2 half circles and I'm going to sew them together. And then I also have 2 strap pieces and 1 waistband piece. I then took an MDF board, put butcher paper on top, put my design on my fabric with my sublimation paper on, put butcher paper on top of that, and then took my easy press and I pressed at 400 degrees for 60 seconds, and I dragged my easy press across it instead of lifting it up, because I feel like lifting it up I normally get like a lot of ghosting. Once I pressed it all, I just took my paper. You see I have good ink release. And then I put that to the side and I just repeated it with all of my pieces. The bigger pieces, the skirt pieces, were harder to do and took way longer. It was just harder to avoid ghosting with those pieces, but we made it through. I then took my rotary cutter and I cut out those pieces. I left a stroke on the pieces so that I could see where to cut. And it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of border left when I cut it, because that's all these sides are going to be sewn, so you're not going to see any of it. I then lined up my skirt pieces right sides together and I clipped the short raw edges. I then took my waistband and I lined it up right sides together along the short raw edges and I clipped those. I took my straps and I lined those up. I folded it in half and I clipped it along the long side. I then sewed all these pieces at a 1/4 seam allowance using my serger. I then flipped my straps right side out. This took a little while, not gonna lie. And then I ironed those straps with that seam in the middle instead of it being on the side. I then took my waistband and I folded it in half wrong sides together and I clipped where the back seam was just to keep that in place. I then folded that back seam and found the front of my waistband and used scissors to make a little notch. You can use pins or clips for this process. I like to use scissors. And then I lined up my back seam with that front notch that I created. And then I went to each side to quarter my waistband. I then quartered my skirt pieces by doing the same thing. I just lined up my side seams, went to the back, clipped that, did the same thing to the other side. I then lined up all of my notches from my waistband, to my skirt pieces and clipped those in place. I then stretched my waistband to fit my skirt pieces and I clipped it all the way around. I then serged it with my serger at a 1/4 seam allowance, making sure to stretch just my waistband and not my skirt pieces. I then hemmed my skirt at a 1/2 inch seam allowance using my cover stitch. And the last step was really just to sew my straps onto my skirt jumper. I used a triple stitch and I sewed it. I made sure that the back straps crossed over to make an X. I sewed it in two places. Sewed the bottom of the strap to the seam allowance of my skirts between my skirt, where I sewed the waistband to the skirt piece, and then I sewed the top on the top of the waistband to connect the strap as well. So my daughter loved it. She has been wearing it non-stop. She's already worn it. I made this like, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago. I made this like 2 weeks ago and she's worn it like 3 times already. She loves it. It turned out so cute. It's a quick and easy project to make. Always be aware that when you have a small printer, it can be a little challenging, not getting ghosting or things like that. But I'm happy with how it turned out. It's super cute. This fabric is from Hobby Lobby. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I'll have it linked. I'll have this fabric linked in the description. It's from Hobby Lobby. Again, remember, if you're getting fabric from Hobby Lobby, go every other week because it's 40% off. Check that out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My little girl is 6 and this was fun to make. Please let me know in the comments what you guys want to see from me. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. And check out my website at sewpresscreate.com. I love you guys and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.